Well, thank you all. It's great to be here. I can't possibly top Adam Haluska. That's just a fantastic testimonial for Carol you gave there. Just a story very well told. I think we should start off this way. Get organized here. So give me a yell, ho, the purple and the gold. It's supposed to have become that fight song. It's my way of telling you I'm going to be out of here and gone in time to be watching that game when I get back to the farmhouse south of Cooper. Yeah. And we from Cooper, Iowa would get lost in it there. I get nervous when I go to Jamaica, Iowa. But life is always interesting around Cooper. We have a slogan there that we came up with. It's such a little town, we have to have several slogans. One of them is, everything's Cooper and Cooper. But the one that, well, we also have Cooper, Iowa, only town in the USA with a zip code 50059. Yes, each town gets their own zip code. But the slogan that really most fits and tells you about what life is like in Cooper, Iowa, and a lot of other little places is, Cooper, Iowa, we argue about everything but still like each other. Life in a small little town. It's great to be here with you for a lot of reasons, but one of which is when you get health news like I got last summer, you're damn glad to be anywhere. I was diagnosed in July. I was getting ready for RAGBRAI, which I've done how many times, and my right ankle was swollen, and I thought I must have turned it, sprained it, something, and by riding my bike all the time, I thought it was probably just aggravating it, and so I watched it for 3 weeks. It didn't go away. I mean, it stayed swollen, and so I went in to get it checked out, and my doctor in Jefferson said, well, he said, I still think you're just tweaking it. Let's watch it another week or two and see what we do. So we did that, still there. And so I also noticed that when Carla and I were out riding, for the first time in our lives, I couldn't keep up with her on the bike. She was walking off and leaving me, and I was just slow. And I could feel I was just slow. I wasn't in any pain or anything like that. And so my doctor said, well, let's just run some tests. And so they ran a blood test, and for the first time in my life, I had a little trace of anemia showing. I'd never been anemic. And he said, that's not good. He said, let's get you scanned. So they did a CT scan, and sure enough, they found a growth in my abdomen. It was, and then it was diagnosed. As soon as I saw it, I said, we're moving on this right now. I was in Ames the next day getting biopsy. And it turned out to be non-Hodgkin's follicular lymphoma, which gets your attention when they tell you that. And it's a non-curable form of cancer, which is scary. But on the other hand, it's a manageable form of cancer. You do chemotherapy, and then you hope to get the lymphoma under control, and then you can continue doing that for a long time. My doc's had patients 5 years, 10 years later that he's still seeing and are doing really well. So that's where we are. I did 6 months of chemotherapy about every 3 weeks, and I'd sit and I'd get about 4 hours of drugs, and all of a sudden, I mean, after one round of chemotherapy, it was amazing. The growth pretty well dissolved in my stomach, and then the second round, it was gone. The ankle quit swelling. That was all about a circulation problem with the growth pushing on my blood vessels. So that was gone. They let me back on my bike after 3 weeks, and I can't tell you the difference in 3 weeks of how much better it felt to ride that bicycle. And I've been clueless about that up till that point. So at this point, I finished chemotherapy in the middle of January, and had a scan a month later, see how we're doing. It came back clear. And so now I'm on a maintenance schedule for the next 2 years. Every other month I go in for a dose of one kind of chemo drug, Rituxan. And I just did that yesterday, and it's really left me feeling great, feel strong. Like I said, I will never be in remission because this is an incurable form of cancer, but I hope to have a good long life ahead of me. So we're ramping up, gearing up for another RAGBRAI. I've been out riding this week, and it just really feels good. the last two, I had 8 sessions of chemo over 6 months, and we did 6, and things were really going well. The doctor was very pleased. And then he said, we're going to really lower the boom on this now. And he shifted to a couple of drugs new to me, and I could tell the instant I took it on the 7th chemo session, it was really strong. It was the first time I felt a little goosey while I was getting it. And I had skated through chemotherapy with fewer side effects than anybody I had ever heard of. I was really tolerating this stuff well. That left me a little rattled. And so I came back in a week later to get a follow-up blood test done, and it had driven my white blood cell count down a little bit. And he said, that's it. We're not going to use that drug anymore. We're going back for the last round to the ones we've been using. He had told me that this new drug would knock my hair out. I hadn't lost any hair. And I knew that was a chance with cancer, you know, but it didn't bother me. I mean, you know, I want to stay alive. I don't care about my hair. And but we shifted back to the other drug, and he said, so now you're not going to lose your hair. And I thought, well, I'm 62 years old. I'm a guy from the 60s. My wife has been urging me for years to grow out my hair to ponytail length. All I can think is this is just a sign from God. Ponytail, here I come. So I got my first haircut of 2010 on Wednesday in Audubon from Sam the Barber Kaufman, one of my old pals. And he just did a light trim and redirected so we're growing south here. So Lord knows what I'm going to look like by rag time, but it'll be interesting to say the least. You know, you would think that stuff, somebody my age, you'd think that would embarrass me. But like, you know, I've been wearing black and white saddle shoes since I was in 6th grade in Shenandoah. Never embarrassed me. When I was 40 years old, I got my ear pierced, and I've been wearing an earring ever since. How many 62-year-old guys do you know that are wearing earrings? Doesn't embarrass me. And the reason it doesn't is this. For a lot of my professional career, I was making an ass out of myself in front of 250,000 readers 4 mornings a week in the Des Moines Register. The rest of this stuff is nothing. Learn to have fun. But I guess what an old guy would tell you going through cancer is love every minute of life. Life is good. Even when it's crappy, it's good and it's going to get better. With life, you've got hope, and all the little nagging problems that you think you have, you can deal with over time. So enjoy every moment you got. That's what I'm doing the rest of the time I've got, and I hope it's a while. The other follow-up thought I have on that is, it's been interesting to watch all of the debate, arguing over health care reform while I'm going through this. I am living it. But I guess the one thought I had coming out of this is knowing how my treatment has helped me, and I really want that kind of treatment available for every single one of you. Regardless of anything else, I want that to be available. So I've been pretty much in favor of this, even though I'm a Republican. I may be the only Republican that's in favor of it, I think. But my medical bill since last July 9th, I think it was, is now well over $250,000. $250,000 for me, and I think Carla and I have had to pay about $5,000. So we have fantastic insurance and feel very fortunate about that. But I just keep telling Carla, hey, I've never been worth $100. Now, $250,000, I said, I ought to feel good. You know, I really should. The other reason I'm really glad to see you is, some of you know, many of you know, that in February of 2006, Chad, is that right?
Yes.
Was your launch meeting, the first time this Connect YP group got together and decided they were going to move ahead and organize, and I was the speaker.